With the latest inflation rate hitting an all-time of 22.04%, food inflation rose slightly to 24.45% for the month of March 2023, higher than the 24.35% recorded in the month of February of 2023. This is also the highest food inflation rate on record. Interestingly, the rise in food inflation on year-on-year basis was caused by increases in prices of oil and fat bread and cereal, potatoes, yam and other tubers, fish, fruits, meat, vegetables, and spirits. Let's check current food market sequel to the latest inflation figures. That will be spotlighting Nigeria's potato market. And of course, joining us to have that conversation is Caroline Elegalam. She's the iBrand food market correspondent, and she's here with us this morning. Good morning, Caroline.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
Good.
How markets?
Market is my market. You didn't answer you.
Market is marketing.
Market is marketing.
I know. All right, so let's focus on rising food inflation. Well, what can you, what can you say is wrong? Is it the value chain or the supply chain management? Like, what's really the situation? Because today you buy tomato, you go back tomorrow, it's not the same price.
I know, right?
And it's rising like it's speeding. What's going on?
I feel since the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic, we've had this high rate of supply, value chain, everything has dropped drastically, especially with the fact that we just came out from this cash problem. So all of this thing has really caused the high cost of prices in terms of, in fact, even people that are even buying from farmers, I mean, people that sell, traders that buy from the farm, a whole lot of things have skyrocketed. The price of fertilizers, the price of seed, even crops, the seed itself to plant, all of these things has really gone so high. So all of these things, I feel like, added to the rate at which prices of foodstuffs has gone up, especially the potato.
All right, I wanted to get a feel of, what the problem is. You were in the market, you were there with them, live and direct. So we're going to take a look at, the reports that you brought with you. And then when we're done with that, when we get back to the studio, we'll buttress this conversation. Stay with us. And welcome back. We're still talking food scarcity. We're still talking increase in food prices. We're still talking the inflation and how that is affecting price of food in the market. And we still have Caroline with us in the studio. Just before we went on that break, we were talking about how we got to the point where we are now with the inflation. But what's really the challenge? I know that there's been a lot of conversation around security with farmers and herders and people not being able to farm as much as they used to. But what else would you say the problem is?
I feel other problems also could be traced back down to bad roads, because most of these traders, they complained about when they buy this food produce from the farm and the trailers are bringing it from the north. Most of the time it can spend. Other times when the road was not that bad, that is 2 days, but now 3 days, 4 days, 5 days on the road.
Wow.
And most of these food, they don't have long life.
Perishable goods.
Most of them are actually perishable goods, and they can't really stay that long heated place. You get my point? Especially this potato of a thing. Okay, fine, you understand that. Now let's take it to, if it stay that long, it starts getting soft. Okay, now once they bring it down to the market, of which they will have to start sorting out the ones that are good and the ones that are bad, which will now incur loss to them on their own side, of which they will have to increase the price. You get my point? Of which the end user, which is the consumers, we have to be the one to bear all of those loss.
Now, my question is, before I go into that, you talked about the challenges, facing those who are in that distribution line. And of course, you talked about bad roads. Then you also talked about the challenges facing those in the production value chain, the farmers, where my colleague talked about the attacks on farmers by herders and all that. Where does the aspect of the agencies saddled with the responsibility of determining the prices of food item? I'm talking about the Agency for the Distribution of Food, Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission. Where do they come in all of these areas?
Okay, so I feel where they come in has to do with the traders itself themselves. You get my point. So now, at the time when they've ordered this produce from the farm, you have to checkmate all of these factors we just mentioned. They will have to check it. Okay, this thing is like this. How do we manage so that the end user, which is the consumers, don't get affected so much? Because if they are to start adding the losses that they are incurring from the pre-production, post-production, and even when they tend to get it themselves, the end user, which is the consumers, really feel it so well. So what they do is they try to help them manage all of these losses in terms of they provide some sort of securities for them, whereby a trailer that is bringing any of these farm produce, probably there's a security assigned to them to avert all of these insecurities that we see everywhere. So what they do, they try to like help them so that at least to the barest minimum, they don't really feel so much loss.
Why I'm saying this is because let's be very realistic. Some time ago, I bought a tuber or a tuber of yam for about I think 2,000 or thereabout, and by the time I'm going back to the market, the price has skyrocketed. My question is, in spite of what you've just narrated now, why is it not trickling down to the last mile, someone who is buying this produce from the seller?
Okay.
In spite of the securities that have been put in place for those who are bringing these things all the way from the farm.
Okay, you need to understand that this, like this yam you just mentioned now, not every state produce at the same time.
Okay.
Okay, probably this time around, Kano State, it's their time for production. They are bringing it from them. And probably Kano State, they don't produce in mass. You get in large quantities. You get my point?
Okay.
So all of these factors to affect the end users. You get my point? So what they do at that moment, they try to provide some agricultural equipment for these guys, probably that particular state that is producing that particular moment. So they try as much as possible to at least provide necessary things they need so that at least they could increase in quantity. You get my point?
Could, sorry, before you bought in, could supply be an issue here?
Yes, supply could be an issue. Supply could be because, look, now let's take it down to potato.
Okay.
Plateau State is the highest producing potato state in Nigeria.
Okay.
Now, Plateau State has their season, time when they produce potato, time they fast and harvest potato. You get my point? Okay. So now, Plateau now is the highest producing, right? Now, imagine when they are not in season. Now move to Benue State that don't produce as much as Plateau State produce. You can see the supply has dropped. You get my point? So that moment, the price, it increases as well. So most of the time, what they just try to do is they try as much as possible to preserve from Plateau State, to keep some. You get, so storage system is also another issue. You get, so once there is no enough storage system, there is little or nothing they can do regards.
All right, farmers all the way from last year has been complaining, you know, trying to make plans ahead of harvest season for 2023. I mean, stemming up from 2022. And, you know, that is coming from the place where, you know, floods ravaged lots of farms last year in 2022. Do you think that has also contributed or is playing a role currently in the inflation and high rise of prices of food in the market?
Yes, I think flood has really is part of the constraint most of these farmers, which has actually caused the inflation in food market. So this is what happens. Now, you farm as a farmer. You put your seeds and everything before, you know, flood comes and wash them away. Now, think about the process of farming. You get my point? The process of even getting good seeds, because not all seeds are good. The process of fertilizing that land, all of these nutrients they need to put to that land to make it produce good food. All of these things has been washed away, of which now, financially now, they are now drained. You get my point? Now they will have to start afresh, start looking for where to get funds, to start getting good seeds that will even make them to start fertilizing the ground and all of this, of which they don't really have enough resources. So all of these things now are actually causes of things that are even added to the increase of food prices.
So what do you think could be done, especially with government intervention, especially the agencies that are saddled with the responsibility of coming in to fill in that gap on behalf of the farmers? What do you think could be done in this regard?
Okay, so I think what the agency could do, like we have in terms of this flooding of a thing, they try as much as well. I think they should try to, I feel like the problem we are actually facing in this country is no one is held accountable for stuff like this, because we have agencies that are saddled for all of these roles to at least to see that farmers, their agricultural produce is well to do and everything. So I feel what these agencies can just actually do is they try as much as well to provide the necessary resources these farmers need. But most of them are still using machetes, still using hoe, which is in fact labor in itself. If they can provide other equipment that can even make it faster, one. Also, they should also make sure that at least in terms of flood, there's a way they can do all of these things. Some lands are flooded. If there's a way you can just at least either sand fill it, make sure that these grounds are well fertile, and again, close every loopholes that will lead to floods in this country. I feel all of these things can actually help and aid these farmers.
All right, thank you so much, Caroline, for coming on the show this morning. Thank you so much also for taking your time to tell us how markets really is. It's been amazing having this conversation with you. Thank you so much. Hope to have you next Tuesday.
Yeah.
All right, this is still iBrand Daybreak. Josh, do you eat potatoes?
Yes, I do. I
You
do.
do?
Sure, and it's very nutritious.
I like that part.
I don't like the part. I like the look on his
it's very
face. You
nutritious.
can see the excitement.
I enjoy it a great deal.
You do? How do you like your potatoes?
Yeah, I like my potato to come in form of it being diced and spiced with, you know, the mede you guys put
3 o'clock. 3 o'clock.
But it's interesting.
Potato is a very, should I say, very prominent staple, especially in Nigeria. I feel like these are the things that should be paid attention to. It's just like our last guest said, a lot of things just go wrong in this country.
Exactly.
Nobody is taking responsibility.
You're
She
right.
mentioned it. I remember that the conversations around harvest for 2023 has been in the news. Every media house hammering it. We are hoping that you people will make plans. Not be when time go reach now, when I go the talk say should
You're
beg
right.
it,
Even the government on their own, they are more reactive than being proactive. Why I'm saying this is just to buttress the point you just said.
Sure.
Some lands, especially where these farmers are on the low plane.
Slow.
Yeah, and so when the flood comes, they are the major hits. So what do you do in that case? You don't just tell them move from this particular point to this particular point, because obviously aren't they going to acquire those lands where they're moving to? So for them, you need to come in to do something that would be more cost effective. Why not create drainages? So that when this flood comes, they find their way of getting out. Because obviously you can't evacuate all the farmers from the low plain areas to the high plain areas. It doesn't make sense. Create drainages and make sure that there are intervention funds. So that when these things come, it does not in any way cause a rippling effect, because whether or not you like it, at the end of the day, you and I that will feel the heat, especially for those who love a certain produce, like potato that we're talking about.
Personally, I just wish people will do their jobs, because if people do their jobs, this conversation will not be necessary. Nigeria is blessed with a very fertile ground.
Sure.
And whatever we put germinates, and it does well on its own. You don't need to give it a lot of work.
Especially from the middle belt area.
Exactly. So how do we even get to the point where when you say intervention funds, nice.
Honestly,
amazing.
there should be.
Every year they quote millions and billions that they are giving. Who are you giving it to? The actual farmers do not feel or see or they don't even smell it.
There's no transparency.
And nobody is taking
transparency.
responsibility for these billions of naira that keep going away every year. All the funds that are being pumped into agriculture every year, they say this administration said their center is agriculture.
In fact, they said it categorically they're diversifying.
Yes.
And where you diversifying it is not agriculture, yet we cannot be able to afford the basic food.
Which new lands have been acquired? Which new farms have you built? Who have you employed new?
The Anchor Borers Fund.
implements?
The Anchor Borers Fund that we talked about.
Trader money, where is it? Where is it?
It's in the air.
It's like every day you wake up, the situation becomes even more excruciating than it already is. It's so appalling that we cannot buy potato. Potato.
Because even the small basket of potatoes, when I asked one of the sellers, I think he said 3-5.
Imagine.
You can maybe like, I think 4-5 pieces.
Wow.
3,500
A piece of Irish potato now, I think, is 200 naira. I mean 300 naira. One Irish potato, one.
Potato that used to be the food for even the commonest man. They can easily afford it. Now it has become, it's now food for the rich.
Yeah, of course, it's
basically.
luxury.
As much as you can, if you have the opportunity, have a garden behind your house, plant
That's
corn,
the way to
plant pepper, plant something.
Yeah.
It doesn't take away your social status from you. That way you are not doing it for anybody. Now you go chop am. It's your own. Now your money you dey save. You get
true.
as much as you can do something to help out. And I'm not saying this because I'm expecting that the government will now sit back and not do their job. If you are in that government office, you were put there for a reason. Do your job. Food is like basic. It's very basic, and the moment you start lacking in that area, then I cannot describe what the situation would be like. But this is where we draw the curtain on today's edition of iBrand Daybreak. Thank you so much for being a part of it. I am hoping that you had as much fun as I did. We will return, but it will be tomorrow. My name is Uche Zoe.
My name is Joshua Okata. God willing, we'll see you tomorrow.
Have a great day. All right.